Hi, everyone, and welcome back to Anchor Point, the podcast from Freedom's Advocate. I'm Randy Crossan. Thanks for joining us. Today's episode is a special one. I'm joined with Coach Teej, a longtime volunteer football coach, mentor, and someone who's made meaningful impact in his Alberta community. Recently, Teej found himself in the middle of a national conversation after posting a personal video online, not as a coach, but as a private citizen, expressing concerns about how our society is approaching the medicalization of children struggling with gender identity. His post was respectful, heartfelt, and grounded in real world experience. But despite that, he faced serious consequences. At Freedom's Advocate, we believe what has happened to Teej is wrong, and we're proud to be supporting his legal case and standing with him as he defends his rights and all of our rights to speak openly and compassionately. Teej, thank you for joining us today.
It's a pleasure, Randy. I appreciate you having me on here, and I appreciate all the help you've done for me.
Well, let's start with your background. Now, you've coached youth football for years. What led you into that role, and what did it mean to you to be involved in young people's lives?
Yeah, it's a great question. I appreciate that. I mean, what got me into it was, I grew up as a kid that was in foster care by the time I was 15 years old, and I felt, I felt abandoned. My parents made mistakes, and that they've tried to rectify later in life. But regardless, I was a kid that was on my own and bouncing through foster systems, and the only thing that really kept me going every single day was sports. It was something that I could look forward to. It was something that I knew where I could go and forget about the problems I was having in my life. It was a place where I could go and be around like-minded people and people that had the same goals and were fighting for the same things. And I had some, fortunately for me, I had some really good coaches in my life who lifted me up and made me feel like I was important and that I was valued and that I could bring something to society, even if it was just on the football field at that time. But it was so important to me. And so when I graduated high school and then finished university and met my wife, she's a teacher, and she was teaching, doing her student teaching at a junior high in Edmonton, and they needed a basketball coach. And I was 20 at the time, and I was like, I really want to do this. I want to get into coaching, and coaches were so important to me. I want to be important to people. I want to pass that down. And so I took that opportunity, coaching grade 7 and 8 girls. Basketball is what I really started in. And then in 2017, I started coaching football at the high school here in Sylvan Lake, where my wife was a teacher.
Yes.
And I spent 9 years there. I got into it exactly for what I said. Is just like, I wanted to be an adult in a kid's life who might have been like me, who was struggling, and the only thing they looked forward to was coming to sports. And I felt like I could be even better than what my coaches were, because of the understanding that I had and how important I knew that those adults were in my life.
Now, you've also spent time working in group homes. How did that shape the way you see vulnerable youth and some of the pressures that they're facing today?
It shaped me a lot, because I got into working in group homes for the same reason I got into coaching. I want to help kids that are struggling with whatever it might be. And the group homes that I worked in were kids like me who got kicked out of their house, who were in between foster homes, who didn't have a purpose and were troubled and upset. And they just needed, in my mind, they needed an adult to be there for them and to understand what that's like. And so, but what I found out very quickly within the group home world is they're more interested in temporary fixes like drugs than actual long-term changes. And so we would have these quote unquote troubled kids who they'd put on these very powerful drugs, and who, as a group home worker, I had to administer these drugs to these kids. And I saw the devastating effects that these drugs were doing for these kids. And these are powerful,
Wow.
powerful drugs that are being
Yeah.
given every single day to 12, 13, 14-year-old kids that simply are having a hard time in their life. And they're getting diagnosed with these diagnoses that they can then attach a prescription medication to. And I just saw the damage it was doing, and there was never a fix. These kids got worse every single day. So I just started my own business coaching kids, and that's my livelihood now. And my coaching football is a volunteer work, but I run sports camps here in Sylvan Lake. So
Excellent.
that was the group home, and again, it's shaped me deeply in how I believe that
I
the
bet.
world is treating our kids.
Yeah. So when you decided to speak publicly, What were you hoping people would take from your message?
I started speaking publicly on TikTok, during COVID, and I was like, okay, what a great avenue for me. And when I first started using it, it was really just like a journal. Like I'm not a great writer. I'm not able to write my thoughts down as well as I'm able to speak my thoughts.
Yeah,
And so I was like, this is like a journal for me. And I'm when I'm making my TikTok videos, I'm really speaking to myself. And I'm having a on record for me to know and to be able to look back on like what were the things of the time and allow me to get my frustrations
interesting.
out. And so I didn't really know, like I had no followers whatsoever, didn't know anything about TikTok, started making videos about COVID, and left-wing gender ideology started coming forward and was the new hot topic of the time. And so then that's what I started making videos on. And I've made lots, like I don't want men in women's sports and we need to protect women and girls. But then
Just
this,
speaking your mind. Yeah,
speaking my mind. And then this one video that I made about trans ideology, creating some issues after a Catholic church shooting 2 weeks before Charlie Kirk.
yeah,
That video got the attention of the principal at the school, and yeah, she didn't like it very much.
interesting. Well, since that got posted, how's the response been from your community, from people you work with, and from the broader public?
Yeah, the response has been so. I've received, and this is not a joke, Randy. I've received thousands of
Yeah,
messages from across the country, and then thousands more on media websites and via comments that are all positive comments. And there's like 7,000
yeah,
comments. That's impossible to do these days, Randy. To get
yeah,
99% of the people in any comment section agreeing with something, it's pretty hard to do. So it tells me that I'm on the right side of history. This is God is using me to help in this area, and it's allowing, it seems, other people to feel free to come forward and talk about this. And I take a lot of pride in that. And so the response has just been 90% positive. In person, it's been 100% positive. It's
on
so
the
funny.
street.
Like
Yeah,
everywhere I go on the streets, my local grocery store, everyone just wanted to come shake my hand and thank me for doing what I'm doing, outside of the municipal election, which is
yeah,
speaking up for the truth. And I had a 95-year-old woman come to me, Randy. What an amazing woman. She came up to me and shook my hand and was just like, I hear you're a truth teller. And she just, started telling me about how she's been fighting against this since the 70s, that she's been seeing this. So 95 years old woman, it was amazing. So it seems to be reaching all age groups, and it's been mostly positive, and we have all the evidence to back us up that we're doing this for the right reasons and not for the wrong ones.
amen. That's right. Obviously, this has really impacted you personally in so many good ways, but it seems to be totally good ways.
Yeah.
So, how has it shifted how you see the conversation in Canada around free speech and social issues?
Well, it's shifted because the amount of people, like I kind of said, that have just come up to me and said, "Thank you, you've inspired me to speak
Yeah,
out." Like, look, I'm not, I'm just, before all this happened, I was just like a coach from a small town in Alberta, just trying to do the right thing for people and the right thing for the world. I want to be able to be on my deathbed one day and be like, I did everything I could to make the world a better place, especially with our
yeah,
kids, especially with our youth, and I can look myself in the mirror every day and know that I'm doing that. And that makes me happy, and that gives me a lot of pride. But I've realized that people want to speak out, and people seem to be more excited to speak out. And I think that the tide is definitely changing. I think I
okay.
think I think the days of being canceled and the days of being silenced are going to come to an end, and are coming to an end um, quicker than I think I would have thought.
So, from your perspective, why do you think so many people are afraid to speak openly? Because, yes, there are people that are starting to stand. We're noticing that.
Yeah.
But why do you think people are afraid to speak openly, especially when it comes to protecting kids?
People are socially correct. And so for me, I am not socially correct. I never have been socially correct. I don't bow to social norms on how I'm supposed to, stay quiet and not bring up political things at the kitchen and all these things. And in my life, I'm not scared of conflict. I'm not scared to stand up for people. I'm not scared to stand up for my beliefs. I'm not scared to say my opinion. I think most people just have a built-in innate fear of public backlash because we live in
Yeah,
a society and social media where it is very easy for your name to go viral for very false and negative reasons. My thought is, if I'm being attacked, then I must be doing something right, because God's very clear about this in the Bible, Randy. Those who espouse their views on and claim to be followers of Christ are going to be persecuted. And that's
Yeah.
a part of it. And I think it's scary for people to be persecuted. While it's scary, the best thing you can do is just do it, kind of like jump in the deep end.
Yeah.
And then defend you, just speak the truth so that you can defend yourself, and then, let the chips
Yeah.
fall where they may. But I'll say, Randy, it's like, clearly God said, you know what, Teej, I'm going to get you fired from your coaching job because it's going to open up bigger doors for you. And isn't that how God works, Randy? Sometimes
Yeah.
it's a little painful before you get to where you're supposed to be. So that's what I would say. Do it, because if you do the right thing, it's not karma that will reward you. It's God.
Yeah. Teej, at Freedom's Advocate, we believe that your case is about more than one post. It's about the principle whether Canadians are still allowed to speak honestly, even when it goes against the current. What do you hope that this case will reveal or shift?
Yeah, that's a great question. What I hope this case will reveal is the fact that the majority of Canadians, and speaking in Canada, but also Americans, are on the side of common sense.
Hmm.
And we have to get back to a society that deals first and foremost in common sense. And that there's nothing more powerful than actually running and living us in a society that is based on common sense and is based on the truth. And that's what I'm seeing, and the shift is happening, and I'm seeing it, again, in my own story, but on other people's stories as well, people that you guys have represented there. And I'm really hopeful. I know there's a lot of like half glass empty people that have said like Canada's done, there's no chance. I don't believe
Yeah.
that, because, well,
Yeah.
one, I can't believe that, because that's just I'm a half full person all the time. Like, I just can't
Yeah.
believe that Canada is done for. I believe that we're going to have people that step up, and I believe that we're going to have the Canada that we want for our future, because I have to believe that. And I have to believe that's what God wants as well. And I have to believe that the truth will win. And I have to believe that good will win, because if I don't believe those things, then, I'm going to start living a pretty miserable life. So,
Yeah.
I just have tremendous hope for our future, because God has tremendous hope for our future. And, I believe fully that, society is going through a tough spot right now, just like I went through a tough spot when I got fired. But in the end, it's going to be the best thing that ever happened to us, because we're going to be able to come together with one unity of common sense. And I think the best thing that can unite us all is living within truth and living within common sense.
Exactly. Exactly. You've talked a lot about your relationship with God and how you feel like He's directed you into this position. So, what in the middle of that helps you stay grounded and hopeful in the middle of it all? If this has all just sort of happened, what gives you the grounding that gives you the strength to keep going every day?
What My family, my wife and my daughter. So I have a 10-month-old daughter, and like, I was always a fighter for truth before she was born. But now I'm a fighter for truth, not just for me and my wife and society, but for my daughter. And there's nobody on earth who's more important to me than my wife and my daughter. And so it's a whole new perspective for me on what I'm doing in the world, and how I can
Yeah.
make a difference for her. And I want her to grow up and just say, like, I'm proud of my dad.
Yeah.
So, for me, it's just like, there's nothing better for me than to have my daughter proud of me for what I did for her. So yeah,
Excellent.
that's what keeps me grounded every day. And of course,
Right
the
on.
massive support I've received from across the country too.
Yeah. Well, but it always comes down to family, doesn't it?
Yeah, it really does.
Yeah. Well, Tees, thank you. Now you've
Yeah.
shown integrity, courage, and compassion. We're honored to stand with you. To
Thanks,
everyone
Randy.
listening, if you believe Canadians should be free to speak the truth, to ask hard questions, and to stand up for children without being punished for it, we invite you to support our work. You can donate to Freedom's Advocate at freedomsadvocate.ca. We're a registered Canadian charity, and your donations help fund legal defense, public education, and the protection of fundamental rights across the country. You can also stay connected by subscribing to our newsletter and following us on social media. Every share, every dollar, every voice matters. Thanks for being with us. I'm Randy Crossan, and this is Anchor Point. We'll see you next time.